Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real, and I'm your host, Bob Gallagher. Joining me in the studio today from One Worcester Homes, we have Brian Carpenter and Laurie Morrison. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I invited you in today so we could talk a little bit about what's going on in Worcester, because the market seems to be getting crazy in every part of the state, and Worcester's not immune to that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on in the market?
I think the toughest thing happening in the market now is just a real lack of inventory. There's just buyers stacked up, and there's no houses to get them into.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone willing to put their house on the market is going to find themselves in a position where they could have 2, 3, or 4 people offering, bidding. It turns into an auction type situation.
So you're seeing that as well, multiple offer situations. I hear it all the time, about properties in Boston and the properties out inside 128, but you're saying it's even happening all the way out to Worcester now.
Absolutely, especially, the basic 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 1,000 square foot house that first time buyer's looking for is sometimes seeing 15 or 20 people through an open house.
Wow.
And half of those people are putting offers in.
Wow. I remember back in the day where you're lucky if you got one person to show up your open house.
At this point, we're just trying to make sure we get to talk to everybody that comes through.
Wow. So that must make it really tough if you're a buyer.
Yeah, and then the number one thing is to be prepared. Have your mortgage lender have a pre-qualify letter, have your education, and make sure that you know everything going into it so that you're not trying to figure things out before you put an offer in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very important. So besides having your customers get pre-approved before they start looking at properties, how do you kind of prep them for what the new realities of the market are?
One of the things we do, and we've done it for years, is we run first-time homebuyer classes.
Mm-hmm.
We'll run those in offices. We'll run those at places of employment. We'll go into where people are working and do them there, lunchtime classes. We'll go to public libraries, anywhere that has a public-private room.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll go in and we'll actually run the class. We'll bring in a mortgage lender. We'll bring in a lawyer, and we'll talk about the process. Because when you find a house you want, you don't want to be thinking about what I should do next. You want to have all your ducks in a row and be ready to make a move.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about how you prep your sellers, because things have changed a lot for sellers over the last 4 or 5 years too.
So a lot of times we'll find a seller is going to want to fix this and fix that, and not that we want to discourage them from doing that, but the number one thing is getting it to market while all these buyers are lined up. Fixing a small scrape or a small piece of paint is great, and absolutely you should do it, but it's not something that you should hold up getting your property listed for. Get it on the market, get it advertised, and let the people come through. If they want you to fix something after you're under agreement, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
But with the buyers stacked up, you really want to get to the market as quickly as you can.
So what do you recommend that they do to the house? I mean, are you advising painting or anything like that, or you're saying time is more important than anything else, just get it on?
I definitely think the time's more important right now.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something that really sticks out as bad condition or bad structure, obviously we want to take care of those.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing we really recommend happening right at the time we list or before we list is if it's in a Title V area where you need to get the septic tested, you want to get that done, assuming the ground's available. Right now, a lot of it's frozen, but you want to get that done quickly because you don't want surprises at the end, because that is something that can definitely hurt your sale from happening.
Right. So there's nothing really, so it's not like it was a few years ago where you had to do all sorts of staging and, like you were saying, making sure every little scrape was covered up. Now it's really just make sure it's presentable, there's nothing terrible, and then get it on the market.
The way we advertise and the way other agents are doing things now, you could absolutely see between 10 and 20 people come through your open house. They're not going to be nitpicking about the scratch on the wall. They're going to be trying to get the house and make it theirs.
Mm-hmm.
They've probably been beat out on 3 or 4 other properties and made offers and just couldn't get them.
Right.
They're not going to fight over the little things.
Right. So when you're in a multiple offer situation, what are you advising your clients?
It can be a lot of different things, but one of the best things is just to have the least complicated offer.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people will put into offer, we'd like this fixed, we'd like that fixed. Having strong deposits absolutely helps.
Mm-hmm.
And just having a strong deposit, a good pre-qualify letter from a reputable lender, and having the fewest conditions. If you ask them to take care of 19 things and the other offers that come in say we'll take the house exactly like it is, they're going to take the easier, cleaner offer.
Okay. All right, good advice. And do you still have customers that think they can go in, even in a situation where you're seeing all these people at an open house, and offer 5 or 10% under the asking price?
Absolutely. Somebody's always got their Uncle Joe who's going to help them get the right price on a property.
Right.
And the last time he bought a house was in 1990, and he bought his $150,000 house for $120,000, and that's how you should go about it, because that's how he did it. It's a very different market now. Typically, people lose out on 2 or 3 houses before they stop listening to Uncle Joe.
And do you kind of see it go from one extreme to the other, where they want to go in under on the first 2 or 3 houses, then after they miss out on a bunch, all of a sudden it's, here's all my money, I don't want to be doing this anymore type of thing?
We definitely see them try to do that.
Yeah.
As a real estate agent, our primary function is protecting the client as opposed to selling them or closing them.
Right.
So we obviously want them to get the property they want, but we don't want to see them overpay for a property either.
Right. That's a good way to look at it, too. So why don't we talk about how things have changed in the Worcester market in general over the last 4 years? And actually, before we get to that, as far as areas you cover, for anybody that's listening right now, northeastern Connecticut all the way up through Worcester, all the surrounding communities as well?
Absolutely. We've got over a dozen agents in our brokerage, and they all kind of live in different spots. So depending on where you live, we obviously want to get the most qualified person who knows that area best. We've got a few agents that live right down on the Mass-Connecticut border, which is where a lot of people find themselves in trouble. They work with an agent for a while, and there's a house right down the street, and they can't go see it because their agent isn't licensed in both states. So that's one of the things that we wanted to make sure we took care of.
Excellent.
And then obviously we have people that live straight up through the Holden and northern Worcester area. So we'll go all the way into Sterling and Princeton and Holden, anywhere in Worcester. We've got a few agents that live right in town.
So you guys cover pretty much all the areas.
Absolutely.
All right, good. So if you're listening right now and you're thinking about buying or selling anywhere in northeastern Connecticut or Worcester and all the surrounding communities, you give Brian a call, 508-494-8757. Again, it's 508-494-8757. And one of the things we were talking about before we got started today was what's going on with the rental market too. And I know you guys don't do a ton of rentals. You're more focused on the buyers and the sellers. But what are you seeing happening with rents right now?
Rents are going up. As new buyers are coming in and buying these multifamily properties, they're obviously adjusting the rents to where they should be. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we'll find sellers have been in a house for 20, 30 years with the same tenants for long terms. When new buyers come in, they put the rents back up to market value, and that's steadily climbing just as the price of houses are.
Mm-hmm. So it's getting to the point now where rents are so high that it just, even with prices going up, it makes more sense to buy, doesn't it?
Almost all the time.
Yeah.
Very, very rarely are people paying less for rent than they would be for purchasing a new home, especially with the rates being as competitive as they are now.
Excellent. So one of the things we were talking about was the shortage of inventory pretty much everywhere in the country, but especially in Massachusetts. Why do you think that is? And what do you think is going to have to happen to change it?
Well, there's a few reasons for that. But a lot of people who bought their house between 2001 and 2007 bought at the top of the market, and they don't have the availability to sell yet because the property values dipped so much in 2008. As the property values are coming up, all those houses will sell, but it takes time for that to happen. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those houses are either in a short sale situation or a foreclosure situation, so people are renting them out or staying in the house even if it maybe doesn't meet their family's needs anymore.
Right. So it's more people that are just stuck than anything else.
Yeah, but they would like to sell,
yeah.
But most people don't have the money to bring to the table to get closed, especially if they owe more than their property's worth.
Right.
But as things keep climbing like they will, we're going to start seeing those listings coming to market.
And we have to be close right now, at least in most areas around Worcester, where it's getting back to somewhere near where it was at the height, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's still some properties that, between tough loan programs that were out back then and just buying at the top of the market aren't quite there. But for the most part, all those houses should be coming to market in the next year or two.
Okay, good. And for first-time buyers that may be thinking about buying right now in and around Worcester, what's a reasonable price to expect? Just for a generic price on a, like you were saying, the 3-bedroom, 1-bath starter home type of thing.
Yeah, different towns are really going to dictate different prices. In Worcester, you're probably looking at a starting price point around $160,000.
Really?
If you were to step outside of Worcester, there's certainly towns that are less expensive than that. Mm-hmm. If you go east of Worcester, 160 is not realistic.
Right.
Anything east of Worcester, up Route 9 or on the Mass Pike, you're going to be paying significantly more for the same property. Mm-hmm. Where if you go west of Worcester into Spencer and the Brookfields and even Southbridge, Webster area, which are starting to be highly competitive markets, you're gonna be able to get a little bit more for your money.
Right. But Worcester itself, you could still get a single family and starting around the 160 mark.
Absolutely.
Well, that's not a big payment, especially when you're looking at rents above $1,300-$1,500 a month.
Yeah, you should be able to get into that property and live there and own it and build equity in it for less money than you're going to pay in rent. And you don't have the risk. You know, the risky thing with rent is your property could sell. You have no control over it.
Mm-hmm.
Your new landlord could come in and ask you to move out.
Yeah.
So when you own your property, it's yours. You can paint the walls hot pink if you want to, and no one's going to throw you out.
That's what I always say. I mean, I was a first-time buyer a long time ago, and the market was much, much different than it is today. But there's nothing quite like the feeling you get the first time you sign on a dotted line. You get your own little piece of the planet. At least as long as you're making mortgage payments, it's yours.
As long as you get to keep your piece of the planet.
Yeah, as long as you get to keep the piece of the planet. But that's a lot of good information. So one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about, I know you guys are experts in marketing properties. Why don't we talk a little bit about how marketing has changed, especially now that we have social media? I mean, that seems to be where everything's going these days. So, Lauren, you want to help us out with that?
Yeah, so I think maybe 10 years ago, you would find a real estate agent because you looked in the phone book,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you saw their name on a bench or on like a bulletin board at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not necessarily where a lot of advertising is done nowadays. We do a lot on social media.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of advertising on Facebook, Instagram. And I think that's kind of what's in people's face every day.
Right.
Most people wake up in the morning and check their Facebook. I know I do. And so we do a lot of our advertising that way. If we have a house for sale, that's where we're going to show it to people.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to hit people. You can put it on Zillow and Realtor.com. People are going to find it that way if they're looking for a house.
Mm-hmm.
But your house might tickle somebody's fancy that's not even looking for a new house. But they see your house with the hot pink walls or, whatever it is, and they say, that's the house that I want.
Yeah.
And so we end up hitting a lot of people that aren't necessarily in the market. We draw a lot of people into the real estate market just from that kind of advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excellent. So talk a little bit about how you're getting to people, because you guys have, 10,000 followers on your Facebook page? Is that about right?
Yeah, about 10,000.
Wow. How did you guys build it up to that level?
It's kind of a secret. I think it's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of effort and really being intentional about hitting people and keeping them on our page.
Interesting content, I imagine.
Yeah, a lot of our advertising hits a whole group of people, and there are a lot of real estate agents out there advertising and hitting a whole group of people, but they don't necessarily know how to hang on to them and make them followers of their page. A lot of times it's just asking them, if you like 2 things that I've posted, I'm going to ask you, hey, do you want to join my page? And you're probably going to like it.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to want to follow it, and you're going to get more good information out of me.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. So do you guys find that you get more traction with social media marketing than, I think you mentioned Zillow, Trulia. I know there's a bunch of other sites out there, but those are the big ones. You think you get more traction with the social media stuff, Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah, we spend the majority of our money on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a huge benefit. We had an open house in Spencer a week ago. The house had been on and off the market for 3 or 4 years. They tried to for sale it by owner. They went through a few different agents. We advertised it on Facebook going into the open house. We had over 20 couples come through, and we had multiple offers the day after the open house.
Wow.
So just the power of using Facebook and getting it into the hands and the faces of the people that want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
We can really target it, people that live within 10 miles of that house.
Yeah.
So it's able to get us into the houses and into the hands of people that wouldn't normally see it.
Right.
If it was in a newspaper or magazine or, kind of just hoping they walk by a sign somewhere, we're getting right into their houses.
Right. And that's something interesting that you mentioned, Laurie, that I never even thought of, is that with Facebook, because I know I'm like on autopilot. I don't even know I'm looking at Facebook and I'm scrolling through everything while I'm watching TV or 100 other things.
Oh, yeah.
Drives my wife nuts. But I never even thought about the fact that you might not be in the market for a house, but you see something that pops up in your Facebook feed, and all of a sudden you're in a market for a house, and it's the one you just looked at. I never even dawned on me how important that is.
Yeah. So we had somebody actually maybe about 6 months ago that came to an open house because they saw it on Facebook. And it's a couple, they weren't interested in buying a house. They weren't in the market. They had a house.
Mm-hmm.
They had a house that they then needed to sell to buy this one, but they just looked at it and thought, wow, I really want to live there.
Mm-hmm.
They bought the house.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I think it's a really big tool that we can offer to our sellers, sellers that work with us, that we're hitting people that we're really targeting people.
Mm-hmm.
We're finding people that want to live in that area. We're finding people that can afford to buy your house.
Right.
And maybe not necessarily somebody that's going to come look for it on their own.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's great advice. One thing I don't think we mentioned before, rehabs. You've seen a lot of rehabs happening in Worcester. I know that was going on for a while, but I don't hear as much about them now.
Yes.
Are there still a lot of foreclosed properties out there?
Yeah.
There's a lot of foreclosed properties. A lot of them, the banks are now seeing that they're selling for a higher price, that are starting to release those properties.
Mm-hmm.
And as people are competing on some of the move-in ready, completely finished projects, some other people are opting to go to the stuff that needs more work.
Right.
So what you do is you can actually use a 203K loan.
Yep.
And you can take extra money on top of the purchase price, and you can make it your house before you move in. So a lot of people, even first-time buyers, are starting to take advantage of that. It's an FHA product, so it's fairly easy to qualify for. The down payment is only 3.5%, and you're able to make your house yours right when you move in instead of fixing it up over time.
Excellent. Great advice. So, and is there as much competition on those houses?
No, definitely not, because a lot of times people will need a slightly higher credit score, and they just need more work. You know, some people don't have the stomach for it, don't have the time for it, so there's definitely going to be a less competitive market there, and you may be able to get a deal. And after you do the work, you should have equity in the property right away, because it's going to look and feel like a brand new house.
Excellent. Excellent. So I'm going to give out your contact info one more time. If you're looking to buy or sell anywhere in northeastern Connecticut, Worcester, and all of the surrounding communities, give Brian Carpenter a call at 1 Worcester Homes. The number is 508-494-8757. Again, it's 508-494-8757. Brian and Laurie, thank you for joining us on the show today. It was great having you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Get Real after this.